Good morning, and I'd like to call the November 8th meeting to order. And we're just waiting on member Bosworth. I haven't heard that he's not joining us, so maybe he has a bit of trouble coming in. And I just want to announce that today's meeting is being live streamed and recorded on the Township of Muskoka Lakes website and YouTube channel. By participating in the open public meeting today, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. And I just want to say that we have all members of the committee here and staff as well. And we'll start by moved by member Creaser, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that the Committee of Adjustment agenda dated November 8th, 2021 be adopted. All those in favor? And that is carried. And are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Okay, would you like to?
Good morning, committee. Apologize for being a couple of minutes late.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to set up the format of today's meeting, Rachel, please?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is required that I make a few statements, and then I will explain the procedures of the hearing. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 231 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Chair Alan Edwards, members Joe Quinn, Lisa Grogan Green, Rob Bosworth, and Sharon Creaser. I confirm we have a quorum. The members of Township present are Derek Hammond, CAO, David Pink, Director of Planning, Development Services and Environmental Sustainability, Bryce Sharp, Manager of Planning, Caitlin Walker, Planner 1, Kristen Darling, Planner 1, Sam Soya, Planner 2, Diksha Maraha, Planning Technician, Lauren Cochran, Planning Services Assistant, Elizabeth Markle, Planning Clerk, and myself, Rachel Mulholland, Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. Public input on this November 8th, 2021 agenda was invited at the following email address, planning@muskokalakes.ca. It should be noted the motions have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. Now I will explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application. The date notice was circulated and will present any submissions received. The planner will also provide the planning staff's comments. Committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information or to substantiate their proposal. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. Committee will hear from those in support of the application and then those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. If you're here to speak on an application, please wait to raise your hand in Zoom until the planner presents the relevant application. Committee will then hear the applicant or the applicant's agent respond to any questions or concerns raised. Committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and/or staff. Committee will debate the application and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. For consent applications, committee is required to give the effect of written and oral submission in their decision, which is something that has been generated for them unless they have something to add. For minor variance applications, committee is required to give the effect of written and oral submissions and reasons for the decision. Again, this has been automatically generated unless they have something to add. It must be noted the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There is a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. In the case of a minor variance application, a building permit is not available until the appeal period and no appeals are received. When you are present at the hearing, please provide us your name and mailing address. Any presentation is limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. Please note that the resolutions are automatically written in the positive to assist in completing decisions as opposed to writing out each resolution. This does not in any way mean an application is going to be approved. One last thing, please take down the pink notice signs that were posted on your property. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mulholland. And moved by member Grogan Green, second by member Bosworth, be it resolved that the minutes dated October 12th, 2021 be adopted and approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the first application is B 8821 ML as well as A 6021. And that is Mr. Sawyer. Good morning.
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and good morning to everyone on this beautiful November morning. The first applications to be heard this morning are consent applications B 8821 ML and minor variance application A 6021 in the name of Gao. The subject lands are located at 1024 Lidsley Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 39 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of these applications is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to sever a 507 square foot portion of their property and add it to the abutting lot with the intent of resolving an encroachment issue. In this case, a 2-story garage and shed on the neighboring property are partly located on the applicant's property, and the proposed lot addition will fix this encroachment. The applicant has also requested a variance to permit a maximum lot coverage of 10.6% instead of the 10% that is permitted on Lake Muskoka. Currently, the retained lot has a legal non-complying lot coverage of 10.3%. Even though no additional development is proposed, the proposed lot addition will reduce the size of the applicant's property and thereby result in an increase in the property's lot coverage. The applicant has also requested a variance to permit the existing garage on the retained lot to be located within only 5.4 feet from the reconfigured side lot line, where a 15-foot minimum setback is required. Notice of the public hearing was circulated 14 days in advance of the meeting in accordance with the Planning Act, and 4 comments have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, advising that the Township's Development Services Department does not have any concerns. The Development Services staff have also submitted a septic report advising that there are no concerns with the existing septic systems on the retained and benefiting lots. The third submission is by Public Works Technician Tim Sopko, advising that the Public Works Department does not have any concerns. The fourth submission is by Emily Crowder, District Planner, advising that the District of Muskoka does not have any concerns with the proposed lot addition, and no submissions from members of the public have been received. I have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration. Staff have no concerns with the lot addition application subject to standard conditions of consent for a lot addition, and staff also have no objection to the minor variance application. I have no further comments at this time, but would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
The agent is here,
Okay,
and he's in.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I just wanted to make a brief appearance and thank staff for their presentation. And just say that I am available, and I think Mr. Soya has provided a very comprehensive overview of it. the applications.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application?
No.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Seeing that, are there questions from the members? Okay, I'll leave it. Okay, the first resolution is moved by member Bosworth, second by member Creaser. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 8821 ML Go to the following, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. One, a registrable description deed of the separate lot and any required right-of-way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. Two, that a legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the severed lot will merge in title to the lot is being added to upon registration of the transfer / deeds. And three, that a minor variance application A 6021 to permit an increased lot coverage and decrease side yard setback be approved. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And the next resolution is moved by member Logan Green, second by member Quinn. Be it resolved that application A 6021 go to permit a lot coverage and a side yard setback of a garage and associated concrete pad resulting in a lot addition with the following variances being granted. One, to permit a lot coverage of 2,169 square feet or 10.6 on the entire lot area. And two, to permit a garage and associated concrete pad to be 5'4" from the northwesterly interior side lot line. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. And the next application is B 8521 ML Beckett, and that is Ms. Walker.
Good morning, Chair Edwards and members of committee. The next application to be heard is consent application B/85/21 ML in the name of Beckett. The subject property is known municipally as 1164 Hecla Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 57 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. A severance application has been made to sever a lot to create one new lot with frontage on Hecla Road. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 17 days in advance and 4 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by the District Municipality of Muskoka. The district has stated that district staff would not be opposed to the approval, provided the following are implemented as conditions of consent. 1, the lands be subject to an agreement with the District Municipality of Muskoka as amended to respecting the location of wells in relation to the district road. And 2, with respect to Muskoka Road 3, confirmation that the required right-of-way width has been dedicated and conveyed to the District Municipality of Muskoka for the portions of the road that traverse the subject lands shall be provided to the satisfaction of the district. Further analysis has also been provided, and I can read it in full at committee's request, and that is signed by Emily Crowder, District Planner. The second submission is by Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official. The Development Services Department has no objections. The third submission is by Tim Supko, the Township's Public Works Technician. The Public Works Department has commented that the severance should be subject to the availability of an entrance permit for the retained and severed lots. The fourth submission is by Bell Canada, stating they have no comments or concerns. And that is signed by Mary McCartney. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of consent application B/85/21ML, staff recommend the following conditions. 1, that a registrable description of the severed lot and any required right-of-way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied with the proposed severed and retained lots can adequately be serviced by individual on-site septic systems. 3, that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lots or the entire lands, whichever is less. 4, that the lands be subject to an agreement with the district municipality of Muskoka pursuant to section 51 of the Planning Act as amended, respecting the location of wells in relation to the district road. 5, that with respect to Muskoka Road 3, confirmation that the required rights of way width has been dedicated and conveyed to the district municipality of Muskoka for the portion of the road that traverses the subject lands shall be provided to the satisfaction of the district. And 6, that an entrance permit is available to the retained and severed lots. Staff have no further comments at this time, but I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? I believe we have.
Yes, they're both here.
Okay,
I brought them in.
thank you.
Yes, good morning, committee, Chair Edwards.
Good morning.
It's very early where I am, so anyway, it's Terry Ledger, agent for the applicant, 167 Medora Street, Port Carling, P0B1J0. It's a pretty straightforward severance application. The lot requirements are all met. I understand the district, it's a district road, so there are agreements to be made there. We have no issues with any of the conditions, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And would the applicant like to say anything?
He doesn't seem to be accepting.
Okay, that's fine then. Is there anyone wishing to speak in support of this application?
No,
Anyone in opposition?
no.
No? Okay. Are there questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Creaser. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B8521ML Beckett, providing the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lot and any required right-of-ways be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that confirmation be received that the township is satisfied with the proposed severed and retained lots can be adequately serviced by individual on-site septic systems. 3, that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. 4, that the lands be subject to an agreement with the district municipality of Muskoka pursuant to section 5126 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, respecting the location of wells in relationship to the district road. 5, that with respect to Muskoka Road 3, confirmation that is the required right-of-way width has been dedicated and conveyed to the district municipality of Muskoka for the portion of the road that traverses the subject lands shall be provided to the satisfaction of the district. And 6, that an entrance permit is available for the retained and severed lots. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And the next application is B 9121 ML. And that is Ms. Darling.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Good morning, everyone. The next application to be heard is consent application B9121ML in the name of land. The subject property is known municipally as 2867 Muskoka Road 118 West, units number 7 and 9. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 73 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to sever a portion of her property and add it to an abutting lot. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance, and 5 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, and the Public Works Department has no objections. The second submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. The Development Services Department has no objections, but would like to mention that the Ontario Building Code setback requirements for sewage shall be maintained. The third submission is from Emily Crowder, the district planner, and has no objections. The fourth submission is from Sandy Boss, the township's building inspector, and would like the lot lines to be verified and access for maintenance to the existing system. And the last submission is from Mary McCartney, a Bell Canada right-of-way associate, and has no objections. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. Staff have recommended standard conditions of consent requiring 1, that a registerable description deed of the severed lot and any required right-of-way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that a right-of-way be included over the resultant lot in favor of the retained lot if necessary. 3, that a legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the severed lot will merge in title to the lot it is being added to upon registration of any transfers and deeds, which may include the breaking of consent if necessary, and that the confirmation be received that the private on-site sewage disposal system on the retained lot is located a minimum of 3 meters from the proposed common lot line, separating the retained lot from the resultant lot, which may necessitate a lot line adjustment. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Darling. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishes to speak on this?
Yeah, David's here. and she's-
Okay. Can you bring them in, please?
She's in now.
Okay. And would the applicant like to say anything?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, we can.
Hi, it's Sylvia Land, 293 Ridgewood Road, Scarborough, Ontario. I'm just thanking everyone for reviewing this request, and I'm here to show support for the application. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Could we have your postal code, please?
M1C 2X3.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application?
No.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Okay. Are there questions from the members? Seeing none. Moved by member Creaser, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 9121 ML land, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registerable description deed of the severed lot and any required right-of-ways be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that a right-of-way be included over the resultant lot in favor of retained land if necessary. 3, that a legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the severed lot will merge in title to the lot is being added to upon registration of the transfers/deeds, which may include the breaking of a consent if necessary. 4, that confirmation be received that the private on-site sewage disposal system on the retained lot is located a minimum of 3 meters from the proposed common lot line, separating the retained lot from the resulting lot, which may necessitate a lot line adjustment. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? All those in favor? That is carried.
Okay.
Okay. And the next one is B 10621 ML Curbison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Soya.
The next application to be heard is consent application B 10621 ML in the name of Curbison. The subject property is located at 2981 Muskoka Road 118 West. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 94 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to create one additional vacant rural lot. The proposed severed lot is 24.4 acres in size and abuts both Muskoka Road 118 West and Randwood Road. The proposed retained lot is developed for residential purposes, has a size of 35.1 acres, and also abuts both Muskoka Road 118 West and Randwood Road. The retained lot gains access from Muskoka Road 118 West, and the location of access for the severed lot has not been decided as no development is proposed at this time. Notice of this public hearing was circulated 14 days in advance of the meeting and in accordance with the Planning Act, and 5 comments have been received to date. The first submission is by Bell Canada, advising that Bell does not have any concerns. The second submission is by Public Works Technician Tim Sopko, advising that it is recommended that the approval be subject to conditions of consent that require the availability of an entrance permit for the severed lot off of Randwood Road, and that a 33-foot road widening measured from the center line of Randwood Road be conveyed to the township. The third submission is from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, advising that the township's development services department does not have any concerns. The development services staff have also submitted a septic report advising that there are no concerns with the existing septic systems on the retained lot or system on the retained lot, and that there is sufficient area available on the severed lot to accommodate a sewage disposal system. The fifth submission is by Emily Crowder, planner at the District Municipality of Muskoka. The recommendation from Ms. Crowder's letter reads as follows. District staff have not opposed, would not be opposed to the approval of the above noted application, provided the following are implemented as conditions of consent. Number 1, that the applicant obtains a conditional permit from the District of Muskoka for the proposed severed and retained lots for access onto the district road, and the lands be subject to an agreement with the District Municipality of Muskoka pursuant to Section 5126 of the Planning Act, respecting the location of wells in relation to the district road. Further, district staff would recommend that the appropriate development control techniques be used to ensure that all future development occurs outside of the identified wetland features and their associated setbacks. And notice of committee's decision respecting these applications requested. With regards to the entrance permit condition, township staff reached out to district staff just to confirm, and district staff have confirmed that even though the retained lot is already developed, issuance of an entrance permit is required for the retained lot, as none was issued in the past. And that is all of the submissions. No submissions from members of the public have been received. I've prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration. Staff have no concerns with the application, subject to the two conditions of consent, including that a registral description of the severed lot and any required right of way be submitted, along with a registered copy of the reference plan, that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lot or the entire lands, whichever is less, that the severed lot be made subject to site plan control. This condition is recommended in order to ensure development will be appropriately set back from wetlands on the property and to require an environmental impact study if future development of the severed lot is proposed in proximity to the wetlands. The remainder of the conditions are related to the Randwood Road and Muskoka Road 118 West. and the district's and townships requirements for entrance permits. Condition also requires the road widening that has been requested by the Township Public Works Department. And lastly, a condition requires that the lands be subject to an agreement with the district municipality of Muskoka to ensure the location of wells will not impact the district road. In addition, the Township's Public Works requires an entrance permit for confirmation that the township. Sorry, I've already read that condition. A condition that requires an. Oh, I just had something duplicated here. So that is all for the conditions. I have no further conditions at this time. Actually, I just want to make sure that I got that last one. So there is the conditions for the entrance permits off both roads for both the district of Muskoka and the township. And the township has also required a condition for the road widening from the center line of 33-foot road widening measured from the center line of Ranwood Road. And I have no further comments at this time, but would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wish to speak on this?
The agent is here and she's in.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and committee for taking the time to hear this application. I'm Stephanie Sharp, planner for Marie Poirier Planning and Associates, located at 44A King William Street, Huntsville, P1H1G3, and the authorized agent for the owner of the subject property. We'd just like to take this time to thank Mr. Sawyer for his presentation and for his time on this application. We concur with staff that this application represents good planning, and we agree to the conditions as outlined in the staff report. We respectfully request approval of this application, and I'm happy to answer any questions that committee may have at this time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sharp. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application?
No.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? No? Okay. Other questions from the members? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
Thank you, Chair. On page 86, I think the second last paragraph, they reference the staff think it would be appropriate to rezone the identified wetlands to EP1 as part of future housekeeping amendments, but I didn't hear that as part of the conditions. I was wondering how we wrap that in.
Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you. The property contains two wetlands. The severed lot contains one identified wetland, and this is because of those wetlands. That's why there's a condition that requires the subject lands to be subject to site plan control. And currently, given the size of this lot, there are locations on the lot where development could occur and not be considered to be within adjacent lands to a wetland. Therefore, at this time, staff have recommended site plan control, and if development at the time when this lot is developed is within proximity of the wetland, then staff would have the opportunity to ask for a further assessment. Another option, of course, is to for a condition to be added for a zoning bylaw amendment to rezone that wetland to a protective zone such as environmental protection 1, or then also staff have also noted these wetlands to be incorporated into a future housekeeping amendment in the future when staff take forward such an amendment to rezone, for example, wetlands on several properties all at once. Hopefully that answers your question. Thank you.
So, Mr. Sawyer, then what you're saying is this will be looked after under housekeeping in the future?
That is correct. Yes, it has been filed to be taken care of through a housekeeping amendment to place those wetlands into an EP1 zone.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bosworth, anything else you'd like to add?
Oh, fine, as long as it gets the correct zoning, I think that my understanding is that that's the best way to protect it.
Yeah, it's a large property, so I'm sure that they can find somewhere for it. So, and that, any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll read that. Moved by Member Bosworth, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 10621 ML Ferguson, provided the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lot and any required right-of-way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that the severed lot be made subject to site plan control. And 3, that the cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. 4, that an entrance permit from a public works department of the township of Muskoka Lakes be obtained as necessary for any entrance permit along Randwood Road for the severed lot. 5, that a 33-foot wide road widening along Randwood Road be conveyed to the township along the severed lot, measured from the center line of the road. 6, that the applicant obtain conditional permits from the district for the proposed separate lot if access is from the district road as proposed, and for the proposed retained lot for access onto a district road. And 7, that the lands be subject to an agreement with the district municipality of Muskoka pursuant to section 5126 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended respecting location of wells in relation to the district road. That is the conditions. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried. The next application is A 5121, and that is Ms. Darling.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 5121 in the name of Hatinga and Woolnick. The subject property is known municipally as 1078 Strachan Point Road. I direct the committee's attention to the submitted site plan and plans on page 131 through 139 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to construct a habitable basement foundation within an existing dwelling footprint, an addition to the dwelling, a sun deck addition to the dwelling, a new sleeping cabin with an associated sun deck. Relief is requested from the maximum permitted lot coverage on the entire lot on a category 2 lake of 8%. The proposed development will result in a lot coverage of 8.8, which is 1,764 square feet. The variance requested is 0.8%, which is 161 feet. Relief is also requested from the front yard setback of 50 feet. The proposed habitable basement foundation will be 14.5 feet from the high water mark. The variance requested is 35.5 feet. Relief is also requested from the front yard setback of 50 feet. The proposed sun deck will be 36 feet from the high water mark. Variance requested is 14 feet. Relief is also requested from the front yard setback of 50 feet. The proposed sun deck will be 36 feet from the high water mark. Variance requested is 14 feet. Relief is also requested from the front yard setback of 66 feet. The proposed sun deck will be 41.5 feet from the high water mark. Variance requested is 24.5 feet. And relief is requested from the front yard setback of 66 feet. The proposed sleeping cabin's sun deck will be 39 feet from the high water mark, and the variance requested is 11 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance, and 2 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician. The Public Works Department has no objections. The second submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. The Development Services Department has no objections. A new sewage system will be required to support the new development. I have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration, and staff have concerns with the application, specifically the floodway of Moon River and whether or not the development is out of this area. So staff have recommended adjournment. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that, Ms. Darling, and is the applicant or applicant's agent who wish to speak on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's Monica Walnick and Jean Hatinga at 56 Glen Huron Drive, Springwood, Ontario, L9X0280T8.
Okay, go ahead.
We're happy to take any questions. We also have our Nathan Zimmer. I believe he's participating here. He can help answer any questions.
Okay, and that, can you bring him in now?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
And yes, Mr. Zimmer, go ahead.
Good morning. Nathan Zimmer, 36 Yonge Street South, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H1V1. As outlined in the staff report, there is a variety of variances needed to basically add a new bunkie to the property and increase the existing cottage, raise the existing cottage to accommodate a new basement. Due to the existing shape of the land, it would be very difficult to place any kind of bunkie on this land without a variance. I know the concern is the floodplain. Based on the town's mapping system, the existing cottage and proposed bunkie would be located outside of the existing floodplain. And with the increase in height for the existing cottage, we would be raising the existing cottage, not lowering, into the ground with a new basement. So we would not be getting any closer to the existing flood fringe line. Yeah, we feel that the addition of the bunkie is minor in nature and meets the 10% allowable increase typically approved under a minor variance. And I can answer any questions regarding the proposed development. Oh, one other comment was that the owners have never had the water come anywhere near the existing perimeter of the building, even with the amount of flooding we have had recently in the last few years. They've still been high and dry in the existing location, so there's no concern from the owner's perspective of the floodwaters at this time.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application?
No.
Anyone wish to speak in opposition to this application?
No.
Okay, I guess I have to ask Mr. Zimmer, are you a professional engineer?
No, I'm not.
Okay, because I see the staff did say that should be adjourned until we get a technical report from a professional engineer.
Okay, yeah, our position is that based on the town's mapping system, the existing building is outside of the floodplains, as well as the proposed bunkie, And like I said before, the owners have never had any issue with water coming anywhere near the existing building. So we were hoping that, a site survey would not be needed to confirm that the water is not an issue at this time.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions from the members? Mr. Botsworth, we can hardly see you there. You're in the shadow there. That's much better.
It's the layout of the room I'm in with the sunshine coming in.
Okay.
I was just curious, the drawings look like the building is outside both the floodplain and whatever else it's called. But is this out of abundance of caution that the staff want the engineering report? And is this something that is required to protect the township from a legal standpoint?
Would staff like to answer that? But I would probably say yes, we're looking for that to go ahead. And that would be Ms. Darling. Oh, okay. Just 1 second.
Good morning, committee members and applicants, members of the public, and Mr. Zimmer. In this particular instance, the floodplain mapping we're not sure exactly how accurate it is relative to the base mapping that we have available through our GIS system. The dwelling is quite close and like to the flood fringe, floodway. And I think just out of an abundance of caution, we're looking to have this firmed up. To my knowledge, there hasn't been a building location survey undertaken to date, and hence we're not sure how accurate the site plan is. So I think in this instance, out of an abundance of caution, we're recommending an adjournment. I think part of the reason we're recommending that is because there is no basement today, and there will be a basement in the future. And through the applicant's agent, we've confirmed that the intention is to have habitable floor space in the new basement. So again, just given the very strict policies around floodplains and flood hazards in the provincial policy statement, in the district official plan, and in our own official plan, and given past flooding concerns in the Moon River in particular, I think, like I said, this is just out of an abundance of caution to get this firmed up so that we can move forward. And if it's not an issue, that's great. We can proceed on that basis. And if it is, we've laid out some details in our report that we would require in order to continue to proceed with the application. Thank you.
Just a follow-up question to that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. And does that answer your question, Mr. Bosworth? Can't hear you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Rob, can you turn your speaker on there?
Yes, that answers my question. Sorry.
Okay. So normally, Mr. Zimmer, once it goes to the committee, we don't take questions on something like that, but I will let you, under this circumstance, say something.
Thank you very much. I just want to confirm whether the town's concerns with the floodplain is strictly related to the new basement, and whether the bunkie could be considered, separate concern, and maybe not a concern at all. And perhaps you would be willing to approve the new bunkie at this time and leave the cottage raising and basement addition until a survey is done.
I think we'll adjourn the whole thing at this point. And that if committee are willing, because like I say, we don't want coming back on us if there is a problem in the future. So anything else from the committee? Are you all in favor of adjourning this?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, so we'll adjourn that. And the next application is a 5821 Higgins Blair, and that is Ms. Darling.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A5821 in the name of Higgins and Blair. The subject property is known municipally as 1071 Skeleton Lake Road, number 4. I would like to direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 154 to 164 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposed to construct an open gazebo, 241 square feet in size. Relief is requested from the front yard setback of 66 feet. The proposed gazebo will be 6 feet from the northeasterly, from the high water mark. The variance requested is 60 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and 5 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician. The public works department has no objections. The second submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, and the development services department has no objections. And the last 3 submissions are letters of support from adjacent neighbors, Marie Snyder, Doug Daughtery, and Ed Olson. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no concerns. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Thank you, Ms. Darling.
Yeah.
And we have the applicant here?
No.
No? Do we have the applicant's agent here?
No.
Is there anyone here wishing to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
No.
Okay, I guess I'll turn it over to committee. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, that seems to be support from the neighbors, which is always good. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that application A 5821 Higgins and Blair to permit the construction of an unenclosed gazebo exceeding 200 square feet in size with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit an unenclosed gazebo exceeding 200 square feet in size to be 6 feet at the closest point from the high water mark. This variance is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the next application is A 5921 Rushby Ray, and that's Mr. Sawyer.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A5921 in the name of Rushby and Ray. Subject property has frontage on Bass Lake and is known municipally as 1157 Kendon Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted sketches starting on page 188 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to construct a sleeping cabin. The maximum permitted coverage of buildings on a lot within 200 feet from the high water mark is 8% on Bass Lake. In this case, the coverage of the proposed 612 square foot sleeping cabin combined with the coverage of an existing dwelling and garage is 8.8%. A variance of 192 square feet over what is permitted is requested. Notice of this public hearing was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act 11 days in advance, and 8 comments have been received to date. The first 5 submissions are all dated from August and are from the owners of the properties to the west of the subject property. All comments simply state that they are in support of the proposed development plans. These submissions were received from Tim Gill, Julie Chisholm, Donna McPherson, Audrey Ho, and Rodney Perry. Rodney Perry being the owner of the property right next door to the subject property. After the circulation of the public notice, a comment was also received from Cheryl and Bill Fawcett, owners of another property along Kendon Road, also simply stating their support. The seventh submission was received from Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, advising that a sewage system for the sleeping cabin would need to be set back 100 feet from the shoreline and in compliance with all Ontario building code requirements. The eighth submission is by Public Works technician Tim Sopko, advising that the Public Works Department does not have any concerns. I have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration. Staff have no objection to the requested minor variance, subject to two conditions. The first condition is that an existing prefabricated storage shelter be removed. The shelter contributes to lot coverage, and with the addition of the sleeping cabin, the shelter would result in a lot coverage of over the requested 8.8%. Therefore, the condition requires its removal. The second condition is that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities, if necessary, to implement the enhanced water quality protection policies of the District of Muskoka official plan, which apply to Bass Lake due to this lake having a confirmed documented occurrence of a blue-green algae bloom. As the property is zoned waterfront residential 1, the site plan control process is not automatically triggered. So therefore, to ensure the water quality of Bass Lake will be protected, this condition to require site plan control has been added. I have no further comments at this time, but I would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here?
The applicant is here.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Which way do we need to go? Hello. Enid Ray and David Rushby, residents at 1157 Kendon Road, Mactier, P0C1H0.
Okay, and what would you like to say, if anything?
Just thank you for considering our request, and we're available if you have any questions.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the committee? No. I have to ask, is there anyone else who wishes to speak in support of this application?
No.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
No.
Okay, so there's no questions, so we'll read the resolution. Moved by member Creaser, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that the applicant A5921 Rushby and Ray to permit the construction of a sleeping cabin with an attached mudroom with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 2,112 square feet or 8.8% on the entire lot area. This variance is granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision and is hereby subject to the following condition. 1, that the prefab storage shelter be removed. And 2, that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities to, as necessary, implement an enhanced protection policy of the District of Muskoka official plan. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried.
Thank you.
And the next application is A6121 Clark, and that's Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-6121 in the name of Clark. The subject property is known municipally as 4916 Muskoka Road, 169, Unit 7. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan starting on page 207 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to construct a sleeping cabin, which will result in a lot coverage of 10.9% within 200 feet of the high water mark, where 10% is permitted. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 13 days in advance, and 2 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician. The Public Works Department has no objections. The second submission is by Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official. The Development Services Department has provided the following comment: that it be ensured the required Ontario Building Code setbacks for the proposed bunkie to the sewage system are maintained. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objection to minor variance application A-61/21 Clark. Staff have no further comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Blocker. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
No.
No, there's no one for clerk? Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support?
No.
Anyone in opposition?
No.
Okay. Questions from the members? No questions? Moved by member Bosworth, second by member Quinn, and be it resolved that application A 61-21 Clark to permit the construction of a sleeping cabin with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 4,433 square feet or 10.9 within the lot area 200 feet from the high water mark. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that's carried. And we'll go on to the next one, which is A 6221 Barnett, and that's Ms. Darling.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 6221 in the name of Barnett. The subject property is known municipally as 1052 Longhurst Road, unit number 12. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan and drawings on page 225 and 226 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to construct a sport court and a tennis court. Relief is requested from a minimum front yard setback of 200 feet. The proposed sport court will be 93.5 feet from the high water mark. The variance requested is 106.5 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and 2 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician. The Public Works Department has no objections. And the second submission is by Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, and the Development Services Department has no objections. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff recommend that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities to address stormwater management and dark sky compliant lighting. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Darling. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak?
The agent is here.
Okay, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Hi there. This is Graham Heisinger of Wayne Simpson and Associates, Land Use Planners, located at 76 King William Street in Huntsville, P1H184. I'm here on behalf of Linda Barnett, the property owner. I'd like to thank staff for their review of this application and their recommendation that the proposed sports court meets the 4 tests of minor variance. I think as staff pointed out in the report, you could build a covered building of about the same size up to 66 feet from the shoreline. So this is going to be much less impactful, obviously. It's situated in the most logical location on site. It's already been cleared historically, not recently, of vegetation. And through the site plan process, we can ensure that dark sky compliant lighting, drainage concerns, as well as possibly a vegetative buffer bolstering is implemented. So I'm happy to answer any questions the committee might have, and thanks for your time.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application?
No.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
No.
Okay, are there questions from the members? No questions? Moved by member Quinn, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that application A 6221 Burnett to permit the construction of a sports court, tennis court, with the following variances being granted: to permit a sport court, tennis court, to be 93.5 feet from the high water mark. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following condition. One, that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities to address stormwater management and dark sky compliant lighting through the completion and implementation of a stormwater management plan prepared by a professional engineer and a lighting plan. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That's carried.
Thank you very much.
And the next application is A 6221 Clark.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-64/21 in the name of R&M Clark Holdings. The subject property is known municipally as 2 Bruce Wilson Drive. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan starting on page 242 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to construct a commercial mixed-use building for an office, restaurant, and retail store use. The proposed building is to be set back 5.5 feet from the northeasterly interior side lot line, 4 feet from the southwesterly side lot line, and 4.5 feet from the southeasterly side lot line where 20 feet is required. The requested variances are 14.5 feet, 16 feet, and 15.5 feet respectively. The proposed building is to be 4.5 feet from the rear lot line where 25 feet is required. The requested variance is 20.5 feet. Relief is also requested from the minimum setback requirement of 500 feet from a municipal sanitary sewage disposal facility. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and 2 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician. The Public Works Department has no objections. The second submission is by Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official. Development Services Department has provided the following comment. Compliance with the Ontario Building Code regulations will be required at the time of the building permit submission, specifically but not limited to the spatial separation calculations. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objection to minor variance application A-64/21. Staff have no further comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
Yes.
Okay, could you bring them in, please?
Hello again. Nathan Zimmer with Duncan Ross Architect. 36 Chafee Street, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H1J4. Yes, the existing site plan, which was previously approved, did have an existing building approved in a similar location with a reduced setback of 5 feet from the northeasterly property line. And we have increased the building slightly, which required an additional setback variance. But we feel the increase is minor in nature and works well with the existing layout of the site. And I can answer any questions the committee may have regarding the development.
Thank you very much. And is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application?
No.
Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
We have 2 people, yeah.
Okay, you want to bring them in, please?
Morning.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman,
Okay,
my
go
name
ahead. Go
Mr.
ahead.
Chairman, my name is Rob Walker, KWA Site Development, 2453 Auckland Drive, Burlington, Ontario, L7L 7A9. Mr. Chairman, as I've watched this meeting, I apologize that we're going to be the one people that are going to speak to an application today.
That's fine.
It's been going fairly well for you. Anyways, my clients, the Ross Bay Developments, asked me last week to have a look, and they shared some concerns with me. And I'm a professional land use planner, been involved in commercial development for about 25 years. So they just asked me to have a look. I just kind of going through, the staff report probably points it out best, is that this proposal probably has the greatest impact on the foodland property. My clients, Ross Bay, just recently purchased the property and are the owners of the foodland and the actual private road itself. They actually control and own that road as well. In 2015, as staff indicated, that there was this site-specific amendment which positioned the building on the site. And it was interesting in going through the materials that I was quite surprised that this was actually not the outline of a no-build zone, which typically a retail client would have wanted to maintain foodland, i.e. maintain their sight lines to the road, and was somewhat surprised that the building was proposed and accepted by in that location. However, nonetheless, that site-specific zoning amendment reducing that rear yard to 5 feet was approved. And there's really nothing to say with respect to that. But here we are 6 years later with what is going to be a larger building and further impacting on the sight lines and the operation of how this private road works. I want to raise just some issues for committee's consideration, and I think the staff report points out with respect to the 4 tests. And one of the questions is, does it meet the intent of the OP? Staff report on page 10 of the report speaks to some of the policies with respect to the municipality attempting to secure or have assumed private roads to become public roads. My clients have discussed with me that they wish to initiate or have further discussions with the municipality about the potential or possibility of the municipality assuming this private road. My understanding, I don't believe that there's been those conversations, but there is some concern with respect to the impact of this on their ability to have the road assumed by the municipality. Given that the fact that this variance actually would put the building 5.5 feet or 1.67 meters, which is essentially, let's call it a 2.5 story building, 1.67 meters to the road. So this is a fairly tight and confined space. Doesn't meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. We reviewed the site plan. I did have some questions with respect to the parking probably being one of the larger questions that we have and larger concerns that my client has. And I was just in looking at the site stats alone, was a little confused, as I think the required on this site would actually be 34 spaces and not 33 as shown on the plan. I understand that this isn't the final site plan, so it's subject to change. But I also, in looking at this, was concerned about where this loading space and the, because they're going to be required to have some form of loading and where that would take place on the site. So there were some questions with respect to that, the site plan. I also noted in the bylaw that there's references to section 3231 of the bylaw with respect to setbacks from streets and unopened road allowances. And one of that section, those provisions say that no building or structure should be erected or enlarged within 7.6 meters from a lot line abutting a street or unopened road allowance. And arguably, that I understand that this is a private road, but you have provisions in your zoning bylaw that actually protect an unopened road allowance, let alone let's call it a private road that wants to be assumed. Further to that, there's special provisions in the commercial section that speaks to specific requirements in the C3, 4, and 5 zones. Despite what that setback is in that section that speaks to 7.6 meters, is that a building or structure may be erected or altered to conform with the established building line. And in looking at the plan, arguably the established building line would be the former Tim Hortons building and its location on the property. So that's basically, regardless of whether we call this a front or an exterior side, because that's some of the confusion when you do look at this site, is you do see that you have this kind of road frontage, but then what is the front? And understanding it's a private road, so this is an interior, but nonetheless, I think the argument or the position would be that these buildings should stay about 25 feet from Bruce Wilson Drive. Is it desirable for the development and use of the land, kind of the third test? My experience, this is just looking at the plan, and I appreciate that the tenants and the size of this building may change, and these things going forward, the site plan may change, but the restaurant building that was proposed here is almost 4,000 square feet. And having worked with and national restaurant chains across the country, I'm familiar with their parking requirements. And a building with a floor space of this size of what would be essentially 4,000 square feet, it could accommodate up to 200 seats. And your bylaw speaks to parking in the sense of you have either or 1 per 4 seats, or the kind of the 1 per 20 square meters, so it works. But if you had 200 seats and you had 1 per 4 parking, you would require 50 parking spaces essentially, which goes to our major concern is where would this overflow parking go? And that's 50 parking spaces, I should point out, that doesn't speak to the existing office space or the proposed retail or the proposed office space. So there are some concerns that this parking could become a major problem onto the Foodland property. So the last thing, I guess, and I'm just going through the 4 tests for committee. Is it minor? In my client's opinion, and in my opinion, that this is not minor in the sense of its impact on their ability to potentially have this road assumed. The impact on not only the traffic and the pedestrian movements. I have to apologize. I haven't been to this site, and ideally I would be there in the summer. I remember this site from a few years ago, but I haven't been there recently to see the traffic and what it's like in the summer. But the issue here is, and my understanding is that the parking and the activity in this area is busy in the summer. And one of the things here is going to be, if there's overflow parking, pedestrian movements, and safety when you have a building that's this close to what is essentially the main road or artery into the Foodland. From my client's consideration, it's not one of being opposed per se to the application, but one in which we would respectfully ask committee to defer to allow my clients the opportunity to speak further with Mr. Clark and the municipality about looking at this development somewhat a little more holistically and working together, given my client's ownership of the Foodland property and the road. And that's all I have. I believe one of the gentlemen from Ross Bay would also like to speak. I'm also available if there's any questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Walker. Would the other gentleman like to say something?
Yep. Good morning, everyone. My name is Phil Lavallee, and I'm with Ross Bay Developments, the owner of the Foodland property that we recently acquired. I think Rob did an excellent job of addressing the major concerns that we have and addressing some of the technical issues or technical items in the planning report. What I wanted to do was just reiterate, as Rob said, we're not opposed to what Mr. Clark is trying to do, but based on what we see to date, we do have concerns about overflow parking. I think the original application allowed for a 1,600 square foot footprint. And then you multiply that by 2 to get 2 floors. Now we're looking at a 2,450 square foot footprint. So that's not a little bit bigger building. That's 50% bigger. We have had some issues in the past with neighboring patrons or neighboring customers and neighboring tenants actually parking on our site, which creates operational issues. We have liability issues that we have to deal with. So like I said, we do have concerns with the overflow parking, especially in peak times in the summer when both Port Carling is at its busiest and the Foodland. I think Rob had alluded to as well as another issue we have are the sight lines and the vistas, given that the grade change from where this proposed building is to the Foodland parking lot is about 2 meters. As we all know in retail, and I know with Foodland having gone there, sight lines are very, very important. So that's really all I have to say. I think we'd like to discuss this more with Mr. Clark and hopefully come up with something that everybody is comfortable with. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Other questions from the committee? I'll have to ask, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support? Anyone else in opposition?
No.
Okay.
Bob Clark.
Oh, yeah, okay. Mr. Clark.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
And I think I saw Mr. Quinn's hand up, so if there's a question to be answered involving us, I'd be happy to discuss that. Obviously, I'm in support of this. I had been in, Bob Clark, 2 Bruce Wilson Drive, Port Carling, Ontario, P0B1J0. I purchased the Tim Hortons property in March of this year. Part of the reason for doing that was the fact that there had been previously a building approved on that site in that location with substantially the same setbacks that we're requesting right now. Obviously, subsequent to that, Ross Bay has purchased the Foodland. There's a bunch of things that Mr. Walker brought up that, I had already talked to David Wallace about, who's one of the owners of Ross Bay. I'm actually good friends with their family. We had discussions related to this development, so I was a bit surprised that there was opposition today. But again, we want to be a good neighbor. We want to make sure we're doing the right things for our neighbors. And I think we both have concerns about overflow parking on this lot, but it's not coming from my property and it's not coming from the Foodland. It It's actually coming from a neighboring property across the street that really does not have enough parking. So I've had to post signs on my property, letting people know it's private and letting people know that the liability is at their risk, not at mine. You know, there were comments about a 200-seat restaurant. We've worked closely with planning in regards to this and came up with a seating number that would support the size of our property. And we reduced any type of restaurant seating capacity to what our parking would allow. Township was very helpful in giving us that information and working with us and reducing the size and requirements of the building. I should also note there's no guarantee that we're putting a restaurant in. You know, until we got this reapproved, we don't know what we're going to put in that building, although we do understand that we have you know, a shot at getting a minor variance, and we wanted to get as much mixed use. It would be ideal if we can, you know, attract a restaurant. But we're looking for businesses and retail businesses that are supportive, things like insurance companies, possibly surveyors, etc. We understand we have a restriction from Ross Bay on this property of putting in any kind of retail food sales, and we will respect that. And I talked to David about that and told him that we would provide any kind of documentation he required to continue that support. So I do feel that we have worked with Ross Bay. We've chatted with them. They expressed some of their concerns. This building was substantially approved in its location. The services for that building are sitting in that location already. They were part of the development of the previous owner. And frankly, I paid a premium for this property because of the opportunity to develop further retail space. So if there's any further questions, I'd be happy to respond.
I thank you very much. Are there questions from the committee? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
Chair, in principle, I think this is a nice addition to that piece of property. I don't have great concerns about it. But I am listening to the opposition, and I think they've made some, you know, interesting points. This property is quite a bit larger than what was previously approved. And Mr. Clark knew that when he purchased the property. So I would encourage the applicant to, you know, put up with a 30-day delay and have the discussion with the owners of Foodland. I hear Mr. Clark. He says he's speaking to the owners, but the owners are here officially asking for an adjournment to have further discussions. And you know, given the variance, you know, it's a 5-foot variance, and the other concerns, I think it might be appropriate to delay it.
Okay. Anyone else like to ask any questions or have any comments? Okay, I will just say that.
Sure. I think the deferral is what we should be working with right now.
Yeah, I also agree with that. And I was in discussions with the previous owner of the Foodland property, and they had offered the private road right down to the dock and into the water. Unfortunately, at that time, the other councillors at that time didn't agree with it. But I'd be glad to work with you. I was involved across the road with the health hub that's in there. And I know they need access in off of Bruce Wilson Drive at some point. That was all in it. So I'd be glad to talk to anyone on that. And I can talk to the other councillors from the ward to see if we can get that through, because I had FedNor there for waterfront and that development. We could have put a pathway from West Street right over there to Bruce Wilson Drive and like a walkway to bring people in. There was the seniors 31 unit apartment building to go in there. So, and that if I could be of assistance, I would be glad to. And I think at this time we should actually defer this. Mr. Zimmerman, would you like to say one last comment? And that's it.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment based on what was previously approved, which was 1,600 square feet. That could have all been restaurant. Under the current approval, we're only asking for 1,470 square feet. So we've actually decreased the amount of potential restaurant space. And based on what's approved for parking, that would be all we would be allowed to have in that space. So we actually aren't increasing the restaurant area compared to what was previously approved. We're actually decreasing that that amount of space from 1,600 from a footprint standpoint to 1,470 square feet. Obviously, that is like the previous, what was previously approved was 2 stories plus a patio based on the elevations. And that is what we're proposing now. So it would be that area times 3 to accommodate the 3 stories. But at the end of the day, it would actually be less than what was previously approved for a restaurant space. The remainder tenancy would be potentially office or retail, which has less of a requirement for parking. So I just wanted to make that
Okay,
comment.
thank you. Well, I think the committee has spoken. We're going to defer this. If both parties would maybe get together and talk it over, it would help. And that, and we'll defer this, and we'll see you at a later date. And thank you very much. And right now, we'll take a 10-minute comfort break. Thank you. Last the committee to come back and we'll resume. And since we have a delegation coming in, but we're not ready for it yet, we're going to skip over to a verbal report from Mr. Sharp, I believe. What happened there?
Hey, thank you, Chair Edwards. Committee will recall consent applications B/80/81/21 ML in the name of Lang and Mirsky, which were granted conditionally last month in October. Committee will recall that prior to the approval of those applications, a resolution was amended with the intention of removing a requirement for payment of cash in lieu of parkland for severed lot number 1, which is the largest of the 2 severed lots associated with the applications. Severed lot 1 is intended to be conveyed to the Muskoka Conservancy for conservation purposes. Hence, committee's decision to waive the requirement for payment of cash in lieu of parkland for that lot, again, severed lot number 1. Unfortunately, a requirement for payment of cash in lieu of parkland was removed altogether, which certainly wasn't staff's intention. Staff are now bringing forward an amended condition requiring payment of cash in lieu of parkland for the retained lot, which is vacant, as was originally intended. It is noted that severed lot number 2 is currently developed with a dwelling and is not considered vacant. Hence, the township's policy statement on parkland dedication does not direct that payment of cash in lieu of parkland be required for severed lot number 2. Under section 53, subsection 23 of the Planning Act, if committee's opinion is that an amended condition is minor, the issuance of a second notice of decision is not required. In this case, it is my opinion that the amended condition is minor and staff do not intend on giving a second notice unless otherwise directed to do so by committee. I would be happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. Are there any questions? Yes, Mr. Bosmer.
It sounds like there was a cut and paste or a delete that didn't happen properly. So everything you said, Bryce, I think that means that they will not be paying cash in lieu. Is that correct?
Sorry, just one moment. I'm getting a bit of an echo up here in council chambers. Thank you, Chair Edwards. So as sometimes happens when you're doing these things on the fly, I think it was just an oversight on my part when I amended the resolution. So that's what's got us to this point. But the intention is to remove the requirement to pay cash in lieu for the severed lot number 1, which is the largest lot, and it's intended to be conveyed to the Muskoka Conservancy. There'll still be a requirement to pay cash in lieu of parkland for the vacant retained lot. We're not waiving that requirement in this particular instance. And I think when Chair Edwards reads the resolution, you'll see that it'll add some clarity to the matter. Thank you.
Okay, yes.
Okay, I might have been incorrect, but I thought we were removing cash in lieu of payment on
everything?
On everything, because they only are creating one. They're creating 2 new lots, but they're giving one of them away to the Conservancy. And that, in my mind, should means that they don't have to pay the cash in lieu of park, on the other new lot. So I thought our intent was to have them not pay anything for cash in lieu.
Any other comments from, just one second, any other comments from the committee? Yes, Member Green.
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, I'm not sure that these properties that are not having to pay parkland are available to the public in such a way as park would be. And I thought that the lot that now has to pay parkland is available for commercial sale, like to a so
It is for
a
sale.
commercial venture, you know, that this thing is for sale now. There's a profit that's being made. So I don't see why we would make it any easier for this applicant than any other applicant in the whole district. Like, I just doesn't seem.
That's true, but then this applicant is basically donating half of the island to the conservatory, which will be much more than the 5% as well.
But isn't there a tax receipt for that?
Well, there is, but it's still in that.
Like, I understand that it's a net improvement, but at the end of the day, it's still a business.
No,
venture.
I'm just asking the question to everyone. Anyone else have a comment on that? So you're fine the way that the motion will read then?
Well, I'm not.
Okay,
I think he should be paying any cash in lieu payment.
Anyone else?
The applicant is not treating this as a commercial venture. If he was treating it as a commercial venture, he wouldn't have given land to the Conservancy, and he would have created a lot more lots. This applicant is you know, trying to do their best to protect a very significant portion of the island. I know there's a subtle difference that it's not technically available to the public, but in reality it is. And you know, my personal feeling is that we should be encouraging other people like the applicants to do this in other areas around the township, because it's beneficial to maintaining the natural shoreline, for wildlife and for global warming, for lots of reasons. And we should not have them pay any in lieu of cash. There was a case that came to council a number of weeks ago or months ago where a small right-of-way was given for snowmobile access, and I think we reduced the cash in lieu of payment by 50%. This contribution to the community is very significant, and that's my belief, and I think that's what we should do.
Anyone else like to comment on that? I'll just ask, and that member Crease or member Quinn, would you like to comment?
Not sure about it really. Like, I see Rob Mosenworth, member Mosenworth's point of view on this. Created a huge amount of park. And it will have access, I believe, at some point. I kind of agree with Rob, member Bosworth.
Okay, member Quinn.
I think it's wonderful that they haven't just tried to cut it into 20 and make all kinds of profit, as a lot of people would do. So I support Bosworth's view on this.
Okay, Royce, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Edwards. Well, I guess what I would note is ultimately the decision rests with committee, but I would note that I think it was a few months ago at least, we had consent applications to create 2 new lots on the west side, or sorry, the east end of the island. So the island as it exists today consists of 2 lots. So there were applications that were submitted for the east portion of the island, and those applications went to planning committee because they were essentially submitted concurrently with a zoning bylaw amendment for a waterfront landing on the mainland, and council waived the requirement for cash in lieu of parkland for the lot that was to be conveyed to the Muskoka Conservancy as part of those applications, but required it for the remaining vacant lot. So I would point that out for your consideration, just purely from a consistency standpoint. But as I said, the decision rests with committee. Thank you.
Okay. And yes, Rob?
If council supports the position that I'm putting forward, then on average, he would have paid 1% or half, which is what the applicant who gave a very small piece of land as a right of way got as a relief for lieu of payments. So I think on average, we're probably not doing badly.
So you're saying, so what do you, and that?
Well, I'm saying that council said they had to pay cash in lieu. I'm suggesting this committee would not pay cash in lieu for the total transaction of the two applications. He's essentially paying what council gave the snowmobile right of way, which was a very small donation, so a very small piece of land. But they cut the cash in lieu in half. So in total, he's paying half.
Okay, so what you're saying then is, what percentage would you like on this resolution? Right now, it reached 5%. Is that what you're saying?
No, I would say 0. Because on average, 2.5 for the whole island.
Okay, and anybody else comment on that?
According to Grace, that this consistency. So if the other half of the island is dealt with just cash in lieu for just the lot given to the Conservancy, then I guess I'll have to agree with Bryce. And I will change my opinion to support it. If you're saying that it's consistent with what they did on the other side of the island, I think I might change my opinion.
Okay. Member Green, you had your hand up.
I guess I don't understand why we would do something that would be inconsistent with what a planning committee had decided after a lot of deliberation. Whereas this is not, like, in my mind, what we passed last time is what Bryce is now saying we should accept today. I voted in favor of it, thinking that it was only one lot. So I believe that Bryce I go along with Bryce's decision on this.
Okay, Member Quinn.
Has the staff been in communication with the applicant on this and come to a plan?
Bryce, have you talked to the applicant?
I haven't spoke with the applicant, but if memory serves me correct, I believe the applicant's agent may have mentioned a request for a reduction in the cash in lieu of parkland fees when the application was heard last month. However, I can't confirm at this point. I'd have to go back and look at the minutes from that meeting, but what I can confirm is that a decision as put forward in the resolution that we've prepared would be consistent with what council required on the previous applications.
Then that's what I support.
Okay, sorry, Member Quinn, I didn't hear exactly what you said there.
After Bryce's explanation and it's consistent with the last and the council, then that's the decision I support.
Okay, and the thing is this, if the applicant has any problem with this, he's always welcome to come back and ask for a reduction with that council as well. I would just hate to see the land fall through on something like this because of the 5%. I don't think it would, but I will read the motion. Moved by Member Bosworth, second by Member Tweezer. Be it resolved that the decision of Committee of Adjustment dated October 12th, 2021 for application B 808121 ML Lang and Mirsky to amend by changing the wording in the condition to the following 4. That cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the retained lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. Okay, all those in favor? All those in favor? Okay, that's carried. And so we have some unfinished business, and that's a 5120. Pardon? Yeah, isn't it unfinished business?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Larry Stewart was identified as a delegate at 1050.
Yeah.
And Rick Hunter was identified as a delegate for Pardy and Barnes, which is the unfinished business matter. So
Okay.
it would be up to you who you want to go first, but Larry Stewart would have been slotted in at 1050.
Well, then let's bring Larry Stewart in then. I don't see it on here. That's why. I don't know why I missed it. Okay, the last one I have is Bob Clark. Over here, I have unfinished business and that, so that's why.
So you invited delegations number 5.
Number 5, just a minute. Okay. I said, sorry, okay. So we'll bring Mr. Stewart in.
Mr. Stewart is in.
Good morning.
Yes, Mr. Stewart.
Okay. So you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I just didn't see my picture there. I wasn't sure if I was on. Okay.
No, you have to put your video on.
Well, how do I do that?
There should be a button on your screen that says it's our video. If it's a
wait, now where we go? Oh, there we are. Oh, not very good, but there we are. All right. Good morning. My name's Larry Stewart, 4798 Rathkeel Road, Mississauga, L5V1H3. All right. So this morning, well, first of all, thanks for fitting us in here. On our first application, I'm new to this kind of stuff, and I apparently was supposed to bring up that we requested for relief, but it wasn't brought up, so I didn't know whether we should bring it up at the meeting or it was something that was done later. So to do with this application, as you know, this is a huge project, and sometimes I think I was a fool for taking it on, but there's 18 cottagers involved, and we were hoping that somehow that the committee could give us some kind of financial relief on this project, as the fees were absorbent. So that was our whole thing, and I'm sorry that we missed it on the first meeting, but that's where we're at. We're hoping that somehow the committee can, suggest some kind of relief financially so we can move forward with this on everybody's behalf. I mean, this is a big thing. And while I have your ear, secondly, in making sure that all of our 18 cottagers had a clean title to their lands, I missed 44 feet of our property, which I should have had the Korhonen conveyance. Like I have the lake conveyance, but the last 44 feet of our property needs the Korhonen conveyance, and a total oversight on my part. I guess, blurred lines. But in talking with Rachel and Caitlin, we've been trying to, we thought it would be an easier process to fix. So apparently that we have to redo the whole application for my property. So I'm wondering if, because all the notices, postings, you know, everything was done on that first application, it is exactly the same application, just adding our name to the Korhonen conveyance. Is there a way that, like, do we have to go through this whole process is what I'm asking you, the town, do we have to do that?
I'm going to ask Mr. Stark to make a comment on that.
Thank
Just
you.
1 second.
Thank you, Chair Edwards, and I certainly do sympathize with Mr. Stewart finding himself in the situation he's in. I wish there was more that we could do, but unfortunately, I think the only way to proceed, at least from my perspective, is to could file another application to grant the right of way. You know, ultimately, Ms. Mulholland, our Committee of Adjustment Coordinator, would need to sign off on committee's decision. And ultimately, you know, committee didn't make a decision with respect to granting a right of way in favor of Mr. Stewart's property. So I think, as I said, the only way around it would be to file another application. Thank you.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just saying, do we have to go through the whole thing of having, you know, I'm trying to save you guys. I don't mean to cause you any more extra work is what I'm saying. I apologize for missing this. Believe me, I do. Everything's posted, everything's been done. So I'm just saying, is there a way that we can kind of expedite this? Like, we'll get the application into the town and with our check. Now that was something else that, you know, originally, if I hadn't have missed it, it would have been like, well, hopefully less than $650 if you guys agree to that one. But now we're looking at like $1,300 for the whole application again, which is, I guess I don't understand the whole moving parts of everything. You know,
the moving parts are basically it was missed. So if somebody wanted to object and take it further, we get our wrist slapped. So you're going to have to make an application, unfortunately.
Okay.
The Bryce, what were the fees that they're asking for and that relief from? Can you explain that?
Thank you, Chair Edwards. So when the application is filed, the applicant could you know, file a request for relief from the fees, and Committee of Adjustment could make a decision at that time with respect to whether to reduce the fees. When there's multiple rights of way proposed over a private road, the first application pays the full fee, which is $1,200. And then there's each subsequent right of way is half of that, so $600. So there is a bit of a relief in terms of the fees there. So committee may wish to consider that at the time that Mr. Stewart files his application. There's also a septic inspection fee for a right of way of $100, which would again be charged to Mr. Stewart when he files his application. But again, Mr. Stewart could file a request for a fee reduction, and that would be noted in our report and considered by committee at the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All I can say, Mr. Stewart, is I would file the application. You can ask for a reduction, and a committee may move it down to the $600. And that, as far as the other ones, I think it's pretty standard for everything and that. So I can't see the committee. They may have another idea on this, but there is staff time involved in all of this. I know from budget deliberations, the accounts are even looking at raising the fees so that the taxpayers aren't paying for some of this. So It's just a thought, but I'll open up to any questions from the committee members. I see no from Mr. Bosworth. Anyone else?
I would support the reduction on the second application since most of the work is done, but I don't see any reductions from the previous.
No, okay. So I think.
I'm sorry, yes, no, I understand. I just, we just thought it was because it was done on a mass type thing, it might have got, we might have been able to get some consideration there.
Well, you did get consideration when all the other ones were 600 rather than the 1,300. And that, believe me, like, no, it's just a case of that there is pressure on the staff as well. So they have to go through everything. So, but for your application, I would suggest that you ask for a reduction, and we may look at that. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. So now we'll have unfinished business.
Then we have one more delegation. Rick Hunter was scheduled for 11.
Yeah, he's not finished.
He's the, oh.
And
Sorry,
he's
my bad.
okay. That's why you got me confused. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I got you.
So that'll be Caitlin Walker. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-51/20 in the name of Pardy and Barnes. The subject property is known municipally as 1067 Marina Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 253 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to reconstruct and enlarge a boat port and a dock. The application was adjourned at the February 8th, 2021 Committee of Adjustment hearing. Committee adjourned the application in order for the applicant to complete a satisfactory scoped environmental impact study by a qualified professional to evaluate potential impacts to fish habitat. The applicant has submitted a complete fish habitat assessment by Riverstone. The report concludes that provided the recommendations contained within the report are implemented and enforced, the impacts to fish habitat can be acceptably minimized. No changes have been made to the original proposal or requested variances. A submission has been received by Linda Shell, a neighboring property owner to the west. The submission is as follows: to whom it may concern. My property is an original homestead and I have been respectful to the environmental concerns. Michelle indicates the following objections: 1, to further encroachment of the new boat port to the westerly side line setback; 2, the increase of the boat port width from the permitted 20 feet width to desired increased width of the 32 feet. This is an increase in width of over the permitted width by 60%. The increase is very excessive. I ask that the boat port be reduced in size to comply with the bylaw. 3, I object to the flat roof as it may become a party deck in the future, and I request that an angled roof or a peaked roof be considered instead. This property is currently for sale. 4, to further encroachment of the new docks from the westerly side line setback. I also question the closeness of the 2 boathouses that will dominate the shoreline with built form. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Staff would also note at the previous meeting on February 8th, the neighbor to the east also submitted a letter of support. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff recommend the following condition: that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into along with securities to implement the recommendation of the scoped environmental impact study and to require retention of vegetation and plantings. This agreement is to be registered on title. Staff have no further comments, but I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
They're both here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are you waiting for me to present? I think
Yes,
I was just
go ahead,
separated
Mr.
panelists.
Hunter.
I'm sorry, I missed part of the conversation. I'd like to thank the committee. I represent Rick Hunter, Planscape, 104 Kimberly Avenue in Bracebridge, postal code P1L1Z8. I represent Mr. Barnes and Ms. Pardy, or Mr. Pardy and Ms. Barnes, my apologies, on the application. Mostly, I think because this has already been heard by the committee, and what's before you now sort of finalizes the work that was done by Riverstone. I don't have very much to say. I'm mostly here to answer any questions, and I believe Mr. Pardy was hoping to be on. I'm not sure if he's on the line as well. He wasn't planning on speaking, but was going to be available for any questions if there were any. But note that this is an application to, in effect, reconstruct the boat port in similar location to the original boat port. And I think you can appreciate this is one of those pie-shaped lots with lot lines that create real challenges in trying to implement the zoning standards that are provided for setbacks from the side lot lines. I believe that what is proposed, again, is building on what has historically been there and is reasonable under these circumstances. We do support the staff recommendations, and we agree that the proposal meets the four tests for the minor variance, and obviously would recommend that the committee approve the application. As I mentioned, the lot line projections and the shallow water bodies, or the shallowness of the bay in this location would make it virtually impossible to have any kind of redevelopment on the site or dock or boathouse in compliance with the zoning standards. So this is probably what would be called, I'd almost call a classic example of where variance requests are entirely appropriate. As background as well, the fish habitat study was prepared by Riverstone. As noted, the report did indicate that the redevelopment could occur with minimal impact on fish habitat, and made a number of recommendations that, again, as noted, would be implemented through site plan approval prior to any building permit being issued on the site. Reminder, the dwelling itself and the bunkie were constructed in 2017. Again, this is I guess the final stages of the proposed redevelopment of the property. With that, I'm available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hunter. I have to ask, is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application?
No.
Anyone wish to speak in opposition to this application?
No.
Are there questions from the members? No questions or comments? Okay, I'll read the application. Moved by member Bosworth, second by member Grogan Green. Be it resolved that application A 5120 Pardy and Barnes to permit the reconstruction and enlargement of a boat park and a dock with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 4,014 square feet or 10.5% on the entire lot area. To permit a lot coverage of 4,014 square feet, 11% within the lot area, 200 feet from the high water mark. 3, to permit a dock addition to be 7 feet from the westerly side lot line projection. 4, to permit a boat port to be 14 feet from the westerly side lot line projection. 5, to permit a maximum cumulative boat port width of 32 feet. And 6, to permit a maximum cumulative boat port length of 51.5 feet. These variances are granted as shown on a plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following condition. 1, that a satisfactory site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for implementation of recommendations to fish habitat assessment prepared by Riverstone Environmental Solutions, Inc., and dated August 24th, 2021, and it will require the retention of vegetation and planting. This agreement is to be registered on title. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? All those opposed? Sorry, was that for or against? Sorry, I'll ask again, just so that all those in favor. That's what I thought. Okay, thank you very much. That is carried. Now, unless there's any more surprises, I think that's everything. But I have been proven wrong twice before today, so. And moved by member Creaser, second by member Grogan Green, resolve the meeting adjourned at 11:23 a.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Have a good day.